All right, welcome. ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Wednesday, the 29th of March. Good to have you aboard. We are a Blue Wire podcast. However you listen to the show, make sure you like, you rate, you comment, you do all that good stuff. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone about your boys' number one show here, all right? ZASLOW Show 2.0. Love having you guys on board with us. Thank you so much. And of course, everything ZASLOW Show 2.0 is presented by our title sponsor, Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Hey, we got a lot going on here today. We are just, what are we talking about? 3 sleeps away from the Miami Hurricanes in the Final Four. Also want to make sure, hey, 3 sleeps away from FAU. FAU in the Final Four. First FAU at, 6:09, and then 8:49. WrestleMania. This is WrestleMania week. Oh, my God. What? And I told you, I got a major conflict on Saturday. I told, big TV, small TV, ZASLOW Mansion Family Room. I told you the way the setup's going to be, all right? FAU's going to be small. Well, WrestleMania starts at 8. I'll be able to watch first half FAU big TV. Then we got to do the old switcheroo. FAU second half will be small TV. First half, I think, will also be small TV. And then UM is gonna get the big TV. I'm going to hit the pause button on WrestleMania, and I will finish WrestleMania Night 1 after the Canes beat UConn. So speaking of Canes and UConn, yesterday we talked to Jack McClinton, probably my all-time favorite Miami Hurricane hoops player. Darius Rice is going to join us today on the show. Now, everyone's getting those old Darius Rice memories. UConn 2003, one of the first games ever at what was then called the Convocation Center on the campus there in Coral Gables. Darius Rice, 43 points, including an improbable game-winning 3 after an inbounds pass. After a steal by Rice, he ran back to that 3-point line to win the game. Boom! Canes win by 1, 77-76. I'm sure he's getting bombarded with all kinds of messages this week, considering it's UConn. He's also made it known on his social media he hates UConn. You got the Heat and the Knicks tonight, and the Heat were pathetic as hell last night against Toronto. The way that the Heat fan hates the Knicks, Darius Rice, he hates UConn. So I'm pumped to bring Darius Rice onto the program for you young Canes fans. Darius played for the Canes from 01 to 04. You don't know, this is one of those building block guys, all right? One of those guys who was in the program at the very beginning, all right? Perry Clark. Okay, so, and I'm going to have to mention this to him. So yesterday, I think Darius deleted the tweets actually, but yesterday, and I don't know what got into him yesterday that got him, I guess, started about it, but Darius did not like playing for Coach Perry Clark. Perry Clark's the one who replaced Leonard Hamilton, I think in 99. So anyway, and you can't blame Leonard for leaving. I love Coach Leonard, right? And no, it's funny how, because it happened around the same time. Leonard Hamilton had the Hurricanes basketball team cooking, heading in the right direction. They had a tournament appearance, 96 maybe it was. And, they had a Tim James team. Leonard Hamilton left Hoops. Butch Davis around the same time. Butch Davis was, I guess, a year later, I think, left for the NFL. Canes fan was always mad at Butch Davis. I don't think the Canes fan was ever mad at Leonard Hamilton. And from what I can gather, the major difference being, one difference is the Canes fan cares a lot more about football and a football team that was on the cusp of a national title and did win a national title the year after Butch left, compared to basketball, which the Canes fan does not care. Now, we already went over the difference between a Miami Hurricanes fan and a University of Miami fan. A University of Miami fan cares about all the sports, cares about the school. A Miami Hurricanes fan may just care about the football program. So anyway, I think also the big difference is, I know the big difference is, Butch Davis wasn't really forthright. He kind of lied about the whole scenario and then said he wasn't leaving and then he up and left. And with Leonard, Michael Jordan called and offered him millions of dollars to go to the NBA. You got to do it. I don't think anyone ever faulted Leonard. Butch Davis, though, wasn't exactly forthcoming. So that was the difference between the two. But anyway, so I'm going to have to bring this up to Darius when we get him on the show here. My friends and I, and those Perry Clark years were not, I mean, you look record-wise, those first couple years, there was some success. Took them to I think Perry Clark's Canes teams went to the tournament twice, including once with Darius Rice. But Perry Clark stunk. And my friends and I have had a running joke for about 20 years now. And my friends are huge University of Miami fans, meaning they care about the program. They care about all the sports teams. And they're huge Canes Hoops fans. And we've had a running joke for 20 years now that the Canes used to play in all these preseason tournaments in places like Vegas solely so Perry Clark can spend the entire night at the craps table. That's been a running joke for us. Well, if you saw Darius's Twitter feed yesterday, I mean, he was going after Perry Clark. I think maybe some Canes fans were talking shit to Darius, which is ridiculous. If you don't remember, he was awesome. He was so much fun to watch. He didn't go anywhere, made the tournament once, lost in the first round that year. What was it, in 2002, I believe it was, to Missouri. So I think then he started talking about, Perry Clark, and the things he was saying there on Twitter confirms this running joke that my friends and I have had, that Perry Clark was just about partying and not working hard. So I'm going to have to find a way to bring that up to Darius, who I've never spoken to before. At least like we had Jack McClinton on yesterday. I've spoken to Jack several times. I've never spoken to Darius Rice. So we're going to get Darius on today. I'm super pumped to talk to him. That's going to be a lot of fun. 3 sleeps away from the Final Four. Tonight, you got the Heat and the Knicks. Okay. All right. Last night, though. Oh, and by the way, we're going to talk to MSG and ESPN 98.7 New York, Barton Hahn. We're going to talk to Alan Hahn on the show today. We're going to do some Knicks with him. The Knicks are good. I was on that Blue Wire podcast, Knicks Film School, last week, right? Ahead of the game that the Heat won last week against the Knicks. So, and I told them, and, Knicks are good. You sound like a dopey Heat fan if you say, Knicks suck. They don't suck. Knicks are good. And you certainly can't feel good about tonight. Not just that it's the second night of a back-to-back, but the Heat have been playing shit basketball, except for that Knicks game last week. And you never know what to expect of this Heat team. I said this going into the game yesterday, where I don't feel good about either one of these games. The Toronto game, the Heat love playing down to their competition, and they will also play up to their competition. The Heat can lose to anyone, and they can beat anyone. We've seen it all season. So if you think you know what to expect out of this Heat team tonight, you're a liar. All right? You're lying, everybody. You have no idea. Last night, though, the Heat are up 10 early on, like 14-4. And from that point on, game was a disaster. It was a pathetic performance last night from the Heat. Honestly, they got down by 9, I think it was, in the second quarter, and I literally said they're losing this game by 25. Now, they ended up losing by 14. But at that point, they were down 9, you knew it was over. It was, and I understand there's no Jimmy Butler. They didn't win games without Jimmy Butler. But defensively, it was so pathetic. A Raptor team, I don't think the Raptors are good from 3. And the Raptors weren't good from 3 last night. They were 8 for 36. Terrible. But the Heat, that interior defense last night, they allowed 62 points in the paint. I mean, what the heck? 62 points in the paint for a team that is not shooting the 3 well. You're going to allow 62 points in the paint? That's an effort thing. And it really seems like this Heat team, it's one of those deals where they're just ready for the playoffs to start, except that kind of performance would tell you that, except we've had this kind of effort far too often this season. That was a pathetic performance last night from everyone not called Tyler Hero. And at least at times, okay, Bam's given the effort at times last night. So I don't want to say Bam's not trying. That's not in his makeup to not be trying. But everyone outside of, Bam had 21 and 12 last night. Hero had 33. Hero was awesome. A lot of Bam's points were kind of garbage time points too, fourth quarter. But far too often this season, yes, your big guys, and they know Jimmy last night, your big guys are going to have to do the heavy lifting. Okay. But there's essentially the Heat's big guys did the heavy lifting last night, although Bam did not have a good game. But far too often, it's not that the Heat they don't get enough support from their secondary players. Far too often they get nothing from their secondary players. Kevin Love, nothing. Kyle Lowry, nothing. Gabe Vincent, nothing. Victor Oladipo, nothing. Far too often, Max Strus, nothing. Far too often, they just get nothing from the supporting cast. And last night was one of those nights where outside of Hero and a little bit of Bam, they just got nothing from everyone else. And so it's one thing for, to be like, all right, well, we're at the end of March. Let's get to the playoffs. But it kind of feels like this is how the whole season's been. And by the way, if you want to look at the standings right now, so we know that he blew it a week and a half ago when they lost to Brooklyn. They're now a game back of Brooklyn in the loss column, and they don't own the tiebreak with Brooklyn. First tiebreak's head-to-head. In a three-way tiebreak, the first tiebreak is division. So, like, if the Heat, Nets, and Knicks were all tied together, the Heat would own the tiebreak because they're going to win their division. But if the Heat finish head-to-head tied with just Brooklyn, Nets win that tiebreak. They swept the season series 3-0. So the Heat are really two back of the Nets right now, not one back. But look below you, the Heat are only two up on Toronto. And forget about Toronto jumping you. Toronto and Atlanta have the same record. I've been telling you, I'm not afraid of the Heat being 7. I'm not afraid of the play-in because then you get two home games to win one. Especially because if you face Atlanta in that play-in, that team sucks. And the Heat own Trae Young. But if the Raptors, who have the same record as the Hawks right now, if they actually jump to number 8, so I guess between Atlanta and Toronto, Atlanta must have the tiebreak, but Toronto can easily finish 8. And then if you get Miami hosting Toronto in that first play-in game, Toronto can beat the Heat. Toronto always plays us well. Toronto's a very difficult matchup for us. So then all of a sudden, you're hosting a play-in game, do or die, against what would be the winner of Atlanta or Chicago. Now, I'm not afraid of either one of those teams, but do you want to be in the do or die game? It's one thing to be 7. You have 2 chances at home to win 1. But then if you find yourself in the do or die game, you don't want that. Well, that's the scenario the Heat possibly face right now. And tonight against the Knicks, and so Jimmy didn't play last night. I'll never understand it. Jimmy couldn't have given 15 minutes last night. The Heat were down, I believe, 6 at halftime. Jimmy couldn't have played 15 minutes in the second half last night? What happens? I know it's a back-to-back, so the Heat are looking at it, and this isn't just the Heat. The Heat actually do it. They don't do it very often. But they clearly looked at it like, all right, let's give Jimmy an extra day, and that game against New York's bigger. All these games are big. The Heat need all these games. The Heat aren't good enough to sit guys. They need playoff Jimmy. And the whole minutes thing. Jimmy couldn't have given 15 minutes in the second half last night, down by 6. I don't get that. And then where, after the first quarter, you get the coach's interview. So they're interviewing Eric. Jared Greenberg's talking to Eric Spoelstra after the first quarter. He are down by 1, I think. And Jared Greenberg there mentions how they tried to get Kyle Lowry in the game. Kyle Lowry last night, back in Toronto, hopefully for the last time ever in a Miami Heat uniform back in Toronto. But he's back in Toronto there last night. Couldn't get him in the first quarter. Like, he was sitting at the scores table for like a couple minutes. Couldn't get him in. So Jared Greenberg very astutely, brings it up to him. Hey, that probably affords you now some extra minutes for Kyle to play with the rest of the game since you couldn't get him in there in the first quarter because he's obviously on a minutes restriction. And Spoelstra, confirmed that, yes, that is the case. Now we got those extra minutes that we used for Kyle somewhere else throughout the game. And it's like, that's how important 2 minutes are? 2 minutes. What if in those 2 minutes, it's just a lot of standing around? the action, it's moving really slow in those 2 minutes. I don't understand such a strict minutes restriction. What if they're not a high leverage 2 minutes? What if they're a really relaxed 2 minutes? I don't get it. So now there's an extra 2 minutes throughout the game. Now, not that I want to see Kyle Lowry more. I don't. But the whole not playing guys, the load management, the minutes restrictions, the whole thing is pathetic to me. I don't get it. The Heat need to win games. They need to win games. But that was a pathetic effort last night. Can they win tonight in New York? Definitely. They could also get smoked. You have no idea what's going on with this Heat team. There's no way to tell. Alan Hahn's going to join us coming up in a few minutes here. Well, and then later on, we're going to get to Darius Rice. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Talk about the Canes Final Four with one of the all-time great basketball players, Darius Rice. If you don't know, better call somebody. All right, big-time scorer back when he was playing in the early 2000s, Darius Rice. He was a lot of fun. He was on those teams with my pal James Jones. That's right. There you go. All right. Hey, before we continue here, I got to tell you about my guys, the Greensteins, at Water Cleanup of Florida. All right? If you have a water leak in your home, you don't know where it's coming from, call or text Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-900-8635. You need to take care of that immediately, all right? And with over 60 years of combined experience at Water Cleanup of Florida, they're going to handle all types of leak detection 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. After the leak is then located and repaired, they're not done. Water Cleanup of Florida, they're going to clean, they're going to dry, they're going to fully restore the damaged area. So you don't have to make a bunch of calls. You don't have to bring in a general contractor. They're handling all of that, licensed and insured. If it's your home, if it's your business, this needs to be taken care of lickety-split. Water Cleanup of Florida serving Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Call or text 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 954-900-8635. You can go to WCUFL.com as well. But 954-900-8635. Call or text. Get a hold of them right away. You can also check out, they have more than 80 5-star reviews on Google. Water Cleanup of Florida, we clean up your schmutz. So, before we get to Alan Hahn, and we'll do some NBA with him, we'll do Heat Knicks. NFL owners' meetings have been going on the last couple days. And you got a couple of rules changes, I guess, but I was probably more interested in the rules that weren't changed. So let's start with a couple changes that they made. Number one, players are allowed to wear number 0 now. I don't know why that was a big deal. Is 0 even a number? I feel like some people say 0 is not a number. If it's not a number, what is it then? I don't know. Anyway, players are allowed to wear 0 in the NFL now. They previously were not. Or maybe it was banned for a while. Excuse me. Here's the one that's getting a lot of attention as far as the changes go. Thursday night games. Now, there's talk about flexing Thursday night games. That got tabled, I guess, to a later time, to another year. They're not going to flex Thursday night games. And I think it was the Giants, I think it was Mara, who came out strongly against that. And you like this, that every once in a while, you got teams who care about fans. And he made the point. You got people who, look, in the NFL, you only got 17 games. You have 8 or 9 road games. And a lot of times, you'll schedule, a trip months in advance. Oh, cool, the Dolphins are playing at, I don't know, they're playing at Tennessee, Nashville. That's fun, let's go. And he made the point. You got fans who make arrangements, airplane tickets, hotel. And now all of a sudden, 15 days before the game, you're telling them the game that was going to be Sunday at 1 p.m. that you planned a trip around, it's now Thursday night. And I'm so glad somebody is pretending like they care about fans. So they're tabling that discussion about flexing Thursday night games. But here's what's also getting a lot of attention. They have approved multiple Thursday night games. So there are going to be some teams who don't play on a Thursday night, and there's going to be other teams who play multiple Thursday night games. Now, here's the thing. So they've approved 2 short week games. But which sounds crazy, right? And then you get the whole discussion, oh, the NFL doesn't care. They say they care about safety. We got to stop throwing that complaint out there. Everybody knows the NFL doesn't care about player safety. This isn't anything new. Oh, how could you say you care about safety and now players are going to play multiple Thursday games and you got 17 games? We know that they don't care about safety. They care about money. So, let's stop making that complaint as if we're bringing something new to the table. They only care about money. But here's the thing. Here's the interesting part, right? Not only can teams play 2 short week games, essentially, they can play 3 Thursday night games. I'll explain how. They're limited to 2 short week games, but they can play multiple Thursday night games, meaning, let's say a team plays on Thanksgiving, Thursday, and then they play next Thursday night. That's not a short week. Thursday to Thursday, that's a regular week. So that only counts as 1 short week game from the week before Thanksgiving, right? I'm using this as an example. So then later on, a super high profile team like the Cowboys can play a 3rd Thursday night game because that would then be their 2nd short week game. So you can, in theory, play 3 Thursday night games because only 2 of them are short weeks. So there's a whole big to-do about that. Couple others that I saw did not pass. Number 1, roughing the passer penalty. Can that be reviewed? They voted down. I wish, in the NHL, if a 5-minute major is called, they review every 5-minute major. And even sometimes when it's questionable, they will call a 5-minute major just so that they can go and review it. Because if they call it a 2-minute, they can't then go and review it and upgrade it. They can call it a 5 and downgrade it. So a lot of times, they'll call the 5-minute. I wish they would do that here, where if it's a roughing, they'll go back and look at it to make sure. Because sometimes it's such bullshit. And it's such a huge call. I don't want them to not call a penalty and then go to review if it's roughing. But if you call roughing, I'd like them to be able to go and review that and make sure. It's a very, very damaging penalty, especially when so many of them are bullshit. So they did not approve that. That's too bad. The other one here is the onside kick. And I've been railing about this for years. So they voted on, after a score, a 4th and 20 play from your own 30 instead of an onside kick. If you pick up the 4th down, you keep playing. It's your ball. You keep playing. If not, you give up the ball right there. That got voted down. That's an XFL thing, I believe, right? That got voted down. I don't have a problem with that getting voted down. What I do have a problem with is the current onside kick, because they said we don't want to totally get rid of the onside kick. I don't want them to get rid of the onside kick either, but I want the onside kick to be for you to possibly be able to recover it. And ever since how many ever years ago it was where you can only line up half your guys on one side and half your guys on the other, the onside kick is now impossible to recover. And I know it's like a car crash, so they're trying to avoid on kickoffs the car crash element, but eventually, it's football and it's dangerous and there's only so much you could do before you're killing the game. And because of this safety concern, they've killed the onside kick. I wish we can go back to the way the onside kick was before. It's impossible to recover now. So those 2 got voted down. I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that. All right, real quick here before we get to Alan Hahn. I've been telling you guys now, one of my newest sponsors, Broward Meat and Fish. I love Broward Meat and Fish. I was grilling a couple of fillets a few nights ago. My wife immediately turned to me. She goes, "Did you get these from Broward Meat and Fish?" I said, "Yup. Are they good?" Because, I'm not the best griller, but I also wanted to make sure, not only did I grill well, but this is great meat, right? She goes, "This meat is so good." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." Broward Meat and Fish, one of our newest sponsors. If you love good food, you're in for a treat. We all want the best quality when we're prepping that next meal, right? At Broward Meat and Fish, you got your one-stop shop. We're talking not just fresh meat and seafood, but a complete selection of groceries. I walked in there for the very first time at Broward Meat and Fish. It was the new location, grand opening recently in Margate. Incredible selection of meat and fish, but also It's a full supermarket. You're getting everything you need when you go to Broward Meat and Fish. One of the things I love about it, they've specialized in serving the Caribbean and Latin community in South Florida for over 30 years now. So we're talking 3 decades worth. They know what's up down here, and that's why you're not going to find more international brands stocked on shelves than you're going to find at Broward Meat and Fish. They got all the recipes, all the brands that remind us all of where we came from. Jamaica, Haiti, Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Peru. You're getting that flavor you love at Broward Meat and Fish. Find the location nearest you. Get yourself a nice cut. You go to Broward Meat and Fish, get yourself a filet, get yourself a prime rib, get yourself some good cod, halibut. I don't know what kind of fish you eat. That's up to you. BrowardMeatandFish.com. I got one right here by me in Pembroke Pines. Go find the location nearest you. And hey, you pick up some of that Johnny Cuba Picante hot sauce made with the finest Jamaican peppers. You know what I'm talking about. You guys have been asking about that. There you go. All right. You don't even have to thank me. All right. Just enjoy a great meal.